The battle over abortion will be decided tomorrow at the ballot box in Ohio. And if it passes, issue 1 would enshrine the right to an abortion and other reproductive health decisions in the state constitution. To get a sense of what the early projections are indicating and how this could go, we are joined now by NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, you're the numbers guy.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, what is the expectation for issue 1 in Ohio? What are the early numbers showing you?
Yeah, certainly everybody nationally is looking at this closely and awaiting the verdict from the voters on issue 1 here. But a couple things here in terms of where the expectations are. I think the bottom line is, at least nationally, people looking in on this are going in with the expectation that this is going to pass. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is the most recent polling we have on both issue 1 and issue 2. It's a few weeks old at this point, but it was 57 yes, 35 no in the most recent polling on issue 1. Also, over the summer, if you remember, opponents of issue 1 had that question on the ballot that would have raised the threshold for a constitutional amendment to 60%. They were trying to do that perhaps to make it easier to defeat issue 1. That went down in flames over the summer. And the other thing to keep in mind is we've seen these now, since that Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade, we've seen similar ballot initiatives in several states. In Vermont and California, they simply, very blue states, but they simply created the right to abortion in the state constitution. Again, blue states, they passed overwhelmingly. But I think, again, Michigan, a much more competitive state politically, and what Michigan had in the ballot is very similar, almost identical to what's going to be on the ballot in Ohio tomorrow. It's creating the right to abortion, but also allowing for restrictions after the point of fetal viability. That wasn't in the Vermont and California language. It was in Michigan, and you see that it passed in Michigan by 14 points. So, in fact, at this point, a year plus after the Supreme Court decision, we've yet to see in any state an initiative advanced by the pro-choice side that has failed. We've yet to see an initiative advanced by the pro-life side that is passed. So the expectation, again, nationally looking in, is that this is going to pass tomorrow. If it doesn't, if it loses, I think that could potentially mark a shift in the politics of abortion post the Supreme Court decision. And I think there'd be a lot of rethinking. It'd be a surprise outcome. And I think there'd be a lot of rethinking of those politics if this were to lose tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. And, Ohio has leaned red, even especially here in the Mahoning Valley, than in recent election cycles. Steve, is this issue expected to serve as a testing ground for other states in 2024?
No, exactly. There are a number of states. We're showing you, 3 right here. And as I said, there are some other states where these were advanced by the pro-choice side, the ones on this screen. There are other states where there were initiatives advanced by the pro-life side, trying to restrict abortion, trying to open the door to legislatures in their state restricting abortion. All of those failed. There are going to be, or advocates are trying to place on the ballot in numerous states in 2024, very, very similar initiatives to the one that's going to be on the ballot in Ohio tomorrow. So again, I think that's going to go a long way. The result tomorrow is going to go a long way to setting the stage for expectations for how those are going to fare in 2024.
So what about issue 2 on marijuana? Does that go the way of issue 1, essentially, in your opinion?
Well, again, in terms of expectations, this is the polling. The exact same. This is the most recent polling we have on it, and the legalization of recreational marijuana, 57% support in a most recent polling. We've seen most states where this is on the ballot. We've seen it pass, though it has failed in a few. It failed just a few months ago when it was on the ballot in Oklahoma. That was very lopsided. It failed in North Dakota. So we've seen it fail before. It would be a surprise if it failed in Ohio. Just, again, based on the polling around this, it would be a surprise. And again, I think it would get national attention in a sense that we'd rethink a bit the politics of legalized marijuana as well. And if it were to fail, I think one thing we'd be asking is, we've seen so many states now make recreational marijuana legal. Is there a backlash to that? Are there folks who are, going to various places around the country and, don't like the very obvious presence of marijuana in the air in some places, and are they maybe rethinking it? I think if this were to fail, it would be a surprise, but we'd start asking, is all of the legalization we've seen in so many places, is there now a political backlash to that forming? I think that's maybe what we're testing for here, or looking for here in terms of the Ohio result.
Right, we will find out in just hours from now. Really appreciate you joining us, Steve, as always, and make sure you're staying caffeinated on election night. You got a lot of energy.